This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with audiences, and selling anything from products to content to time. All in one place, all on your terms. Hey Spuds, it's Jamie. Welcome back to another video. If that's been on the channel, I don't know, but welcome either way. And I'm very excited about today's video, so welcome in. If you've watched any of my videos before, you may know I don't think it's too much of a secret. It's definitely not a secret that I'm a big fan of David Tennant. He was a core part of my childhood because one of my favorite shows growing up was Doctor Who, and he was the Doctor right when I was like a kid into teenage years and stuff, and he's always been my favorite Doctor. Oh yeah. He's not only a national treasure and the best Doctor. I'm sorry if you disagree with me, you are wrong. But he's also a massively vocal trans ally alongside his wife, Georgia Tennant. I've spoken a few times over the years of specific standout moments of him being a trans ally quite publicly. So David Tennant recently said F off and let people be to trans bigots. Love it. Perfect. Absolutely no notes. But his allyship is not just a recent thing, and it's not just a public thing. He's also a massively supportive parent of his non-binary child. And I realized on the channel that I do often speak about transphobia, calling out a particular author on transphobic topics, which is important, and I stand by that, and I will continue to make those videos. However, I think it's just as important to highlight those who support the trans community and celebrate that, because having powerful voices be vocal allies is incredibly important to reducing discrimination and stigmatization of the trans community and helping to progress trans rights generally. It's the powerful anti-trans voices that have seen us fall into the current social climate and push back against trans rights that we're currently in. And I do believe it's powerful trans allies who will help turn the tide on this. Not to put undue responsibility on anyone specific shoulders here to eradicate transphobia or anything, but just even through passive support, it all really adds up. It normalizes being supportive of trans people and it humanizes trans people as a whole. And as is the case for many marginalized communities, the voices of trans allies are often more powerful and more listened to than the voices of trans people themselves. And so I want to start highlighting these instances of allyship more. So today we are here to celebrate David Tennant. Oh yes. We're going to be going over some of his top moments of allyship over the years and just highlighting how much it means to people and the types of things that everybody can kind of be doing, because you don't have to be public facing or have things that you do reach news outlets for them to make an impact in trans people's lives. First up, he told an anti-trans politician to shut up. Yes, he did. In June 2024, during his speech at the British LGBTQ Awards, where he won an award for Celebrity Ally, he spoke out against Kemi Badenoch, who at the time was the British Equalities Minister, but is now the leader of the Conservative Party. So in that moment, David Tennant used his speech and that platform to speak out against somebody who actively campaigns against trans rights.
With a slogan, I attract the ire of the occasional online idiot. But I don't have social media, so even I have to be told about that by my brilliant wife, Georgia, who is the real engine behind anything we do. She educates me about empathy and understanding, and she has been a huge educator for me. But I suppose if I'm honest, I'm a little depressed by the fact that acknowledging that everyone has the right to be who they want to be and live their life how they want to live it, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, should merit any kind of special award or special mention, because it's common sense, isn't it? It is human decency. We shouldn't live in a world where that is worth remarking on. However, until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up. Whilst we do live in this world, I am honoured to receive this. I'm thrilled to be here and to be a part of this night. Pride is very important in our house. It's a family affair. We have skin in the game. So this event tonight thrills me. It gives me hope, it gives me fire, it gives me energy and deep joy. And even if I feel I don't really deserve this, I'm very pleased and very proud to be receiving it. Thank you all so much.
Badenoch has advocated for banning trans women from entering women's toilets and sports teams, an opinion that someone definitely deserves to be told to shut up about. Tennant, of course, received backlash from this from the anti-trans bigots. They twisted his words and made it out like he'd attacked a woman for no reason. He was called misogynistic, but it's just classic bigot behavior in these situations to victimize themselves when they've been legitimately called out for their shitty behavior. And they're like,
oh no, you can't be mad at me. I've not done anything wrong.
Number 2, he has publicly stood up for trans kids. kids. In July 2023, he used a press run for the season 2 of Good Omens to make a statement in support of trans kids. He wore and was photographed wearing a t-shirt saying, "Leave trans kids alone, you absolute freaks." And this was one of the moments that I highlighted personally. I think is one of my favorite moments. Just very iconic t-shirt. And a little bonus moment as well, he was also wearing a non-binary pin, with pride-themed pin badges becoming something he's known for, including one that says, "You're safe with me." His pin badge wearing has also riled up some very well-known anti-trans bigots. Yes, really, multiple grown adults getting publicly upset and throwing tantrums over somebody else wearing an inclusive pin badge, honestly. And during a time when trans people, trans kids in particular, are being targeted by anti-trans legislation, lack of healthcare access, and discrimination, having someone like David Tennant choose to wear this message, specifically during a press run, meant a lot to so many people, and it really sent out a message on quite a large platform. Now more than ever, it's so crucial to spread the message that trans youth are loved, and there are so many people out there fighting so hard for them to be able to exist freely, including trans kids themselves at the minute. And just how much David Tennant wearing that t-shirt meant to people was really summed up in some tweets. David Tennant wearing a non-binary pin and this t-shirt in the Good Omens press photos, my heart. I just cannot, even with how special a person he is. I always knew I loved him, but oh my god. David Tennant, speak louder. Reading all the nasty, spiteful comments about David Tennant from bitter, transphobic, gender-critical bigots just making me grateful that his kiddo has him as a parent and not one of those obsessive transphobes. I need David Tennant to be my dad. This isn't funny anymore. David Tennant, a good man by anyone's measure, getting predictably jumped on by Pond Life Twitter for standing up for trans kids. I'd ask you to look at the type of people lined up on either side of this debate. Pretty obvious who the decent folk are. I believe Salt and Pepper were talking about David Tennant when they said, "What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man." Doesn't sound right when you just say it, but I'm not gonna sing. Hello, just popping in for a moment to update you on my professional pizza tasting business. I'm sure it will come as a massive shock to all of you that I am having to shut up shop, I'm afraid. I ate all the pizza. Yeah, not a single slice left to try, not a single pepperoni gone uneaten. My work is done. Squarespace was the source to my base, allowing the creation of a supreme website that meant demand grew so quickly and I ate all the pizza. So I am pausing the tasting career, but I'm sure I'll be back with a new business very soon. Whatever your idea though, you know when you make a website with Squarespace, it's gonna be amazing, because Squarespace is full of wonderful features. You can use Squarespace's new guided design system, Squarespace Blueprint. This lets you choose from professionally curated layout and styling options to build your unique online space. Your website will be tailored for your business or website idea and optimized for every device. Then when your website is ready, Squarespace's optimized SEO tools will help you grow routes across the web, hitting the internet sweet spot so you can get discovered fast and grow the way you want. Then once you have all your pages in place, you can make use of Squarespace's asset library to upload, organize, and access all of your content from one place. This means I can manage all of my files from one central hub and use them across the Squarespace platform. Another delightful feature is that every Squarespace website automatically includes a mobile experience, meaning your content will look great on every device, from computers to tablets to smartphones. So whatever your website idea, if you're looking to build a community, if you're an awesome entrepreneur, if you've found some extra pizza to taste, or if you just want to make something fun, then you can turn any idea into a website using Squarespace. I will be baking business next month with a brand new business idea, but go leave a comment down below at what you might want to see me do next. And I might just use Squarespace to make it a reality. It really is the pepper only website platform for me. To get started yourself, go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Jammidodger to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The link's in the description. Crust me, just do it. Now back to the video. I'm definitely not sorry for the puns. Number 3, he told transphobes to off. As they should. What are they even doing? Go away. In May 2024, he told anti-trans bigots to off. He appeared at the Proud Nerds, Angels, Demons and Doctors convention in Germany and was asked about his relationship to gender expression and said the following: "When I was a kid, the idea of being non-binary wasn't something that existed. It wasn't a concept. I've seen that emerge and people are able to express themselves through that. It only ever seems positive as far as I can see. When I was a teenager, I remember gay rights being weaponized politically. That always felt ugly and nasty. We look back on that 30 years later and those people are clearly on the wrong side of history." That is such an important point to make and such a good one. It is so true. If we look at like the Anita Bryants, who was the J.K. Rowling of homophobes way back when in the 70s, wrong side of history, not an acceptable viewpoint to have by the standard of a majority of society. I think we're at that stage where unfortunately it's a waiting game, but you wait that length of time and a vast majority of people will view those who are spreading anti-trans rhetoric right now as on the wrong side of history, because they absolutely are. He continued saying, "Now there is a similar weaponization of these topics being taken by mostly the right wing or certain sections of society, trying to create friction and conflict and division where it need shouldn't be. It's just about people being themselves. You don't need to be bothered about it. Off and let people be. He also explained that he wants people to be allowed to exist, and that the ways of expressing gender identity and sexuality are more nuanced than they once were, and that only seems to be a positive. If that helps people to know who they are, say who they are, and communicate to the world who they are, it's just common sense. Although a very catchy headline, him telling bigots to off wasn't the most impactful bit of this speech, although it definitely was my favourite bit, and yes, please can the bigots just off. But I think it's the part about how ways of expressing are more nuanced now, and how it's common sense that this is just a thing that happens as it helps people know who they are and communicate it. I think that is such a vital and important nugget to share, and it's a major bit that the bigots are missing. It's like one of the biggest holes in their, I don't know, knowledge, sense of compassion, empathy, whatever. It's just lacking in their brains, along with compassion and empathy, clearly. But they just seem to lack all awareness that times change and that's okay, and our understanding of people and society and language evolves as we evolve as a society, and that's okay. I just like, why can't we just let people be themselves and be happy? Number 4, he wore a trans rights t-shirt to a school pride event. In June 2024, David Tennant wore a trans rights t-shirt to one of his children's school pride celebrations. The t-shirt said, "You will have to go through me," in the trans flag colours. Sold on a site called Stevie's Safe Place. Not only was it a badass supportive parent move to wear that t-shirt and also be flying a little progress flag, but after Georgia Tennant posted on her Instagram David wearing it, the creator of the t-shirt sold over $15,000 worth of t-shirts. The profits from them fund a scholarship for trans youth, and the sales generated from David Tennant wearing it funded the scholarship several times over. And speaking of Georgia Tennant, I want to take a little break in the David Tennant celebration to celebrate Georgia Tennant for a minute as well. We obviously cannot ignore Georgia Tennant, who is David Tennant's wife. She's also a very vocal ally, and the one out of the two of them who's actually on social media. She's spoken out in support of the trans community in the past, including after previous Prime Minister Rishi Sunak made transphobic comments during a speech at the Conservative Party conference. Georgia Tennant showed her anger at Sunak's comments and said, "I have written and erased so many furious tweets," she wrote. "So many things I want to say, but in this moment, only one thing I need to. To the trans community, I stand with you now and always. I, like you, am going nowhere." She also attended the 2024 BAFTAs with a tattoo on her wrist that read, "Trans rights are human rights." It's not known if it was temporary or permanent, but either way, it was a very powerful message to send on that kind of stage. As a couple, they honestly just seem like really supportive parents to their kid, which is wonderful to see in of itself, but they've also made the active decision to take that allyship public and make use of the stages that they have access to because of their jobs and express their allyship on those platforms as well, which is so important to do and really lovely to see. Going back to David Tennant at number 5, he has spoken out on the weaponization of LGBTQ+ issues. In October 2024, Tennant appeared on the Happy Place podcast and admitted that he can be hesitant to speak out on political issues, but added, "In terms of anything I say in support of the LGBTQ+ community, it just feels like common sense. I find it ludicrous how some of those conversations have been weaponized."
But I'm always conflicted because as an actor, it's not really my job. If I really want to get political, I should run for Parliament, and I'm not about to do that. If I really want to change the world, I could probably go off and do something about it. And I pull faces for a living, and I'm not planning on changing that anytime soon.
But there is power in having a public platform, which I guess is the conflict, because you can shift the dial by just being you.
So it would seem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's sometimes where you're going to think, well, I am going to say that because you are afforded a louder voice just because people know who you are. But I do always, I'm always cagey about overusing that voice or venturing into areas where, how am I trying to put this? I don't want to start telling people how to think because I could do something else. Does that make sense? I could run for Parliament. You don't need to listen to me because I'm an actor, because you liked me in a show, doesn't give me the right to tell you how to think.
But
sometimes
knowing your voice helps a community that is often struggling.
Certainly it's
a beautiful thing.
Certainly in terms of anything I say in support of the LGBTQ community, it just feels like common sense to me, and I find it ludicrous how some of those conversations have been weaponized.
Number 6, he has spoken out in support of Pride Month. He went on Ed Miliband's Reasons to be Cheerful podcast, and when asked what his reason to be cheerful was, he spoke about how he was cheerful that it was currently Pride Month. Could have spoken about anything, but he chose to highlight Pride Month. He spoke about how when he was young, being called gay on the playground was just about the worst insult, but now it's an identity that is celebrated. He got quite emotional and he spoke about how we want our children to grow up in a kind world where they can be accepted for who they are. He also mentioned about the weaponization of the term woke, which I don't think this is something that gets discussed enough. And he questioned why anybody wouldn't want to be awake, which I think is a wonderful way of putting it, and how being woke should be something that's strived for, not mocked. And honestly, I totally agree. I don't understand how a term like woke has become something that is described and viewed as some big negative and like, oh no, that's woke, I hate it. It's literally just being an open-minded and accepting person. Like, for me, woke is equivalent to open-minded and decent human being. If you're not woke, then that's you, but I don't know why it would be something people would mock. He spoke really eloquently and passionately about the topic, and this is one of those instances where it's so important for people like David Tennant and allies to highlight moments like Pride Month, why it's important, things like the weaponization of woke, because all of that does help cut through the shit that comes from a certain children's author and others. I honestly think this meme really sums up how a lot of trans people feel about David Tennant. Number 7, he wore a pride pin on national TV and helped raise thousands for an LGBT plus charity. On Transgender Day of Remembrance 2023, Tennant went on The One Show, which is a pretty popular topical show in the UK. It has about 3 to 5 million viewers, so yes. And he wore a trans-coloured TARDIS pin, which is honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and I did still find it for sale. I also really appreciate the method, whether it was deliberate or not, of just really subtly showing support at pretty much every event or public appearance he goes to by wearing these pin badges. It's so passive and seems so small, but so many people notice, and it means a lot to so many people watching. It will honestly make so many people feel like they're not alone. He also did this at the Good Omens press run, and he also wore a non-binary pin badge to the Mean Girls musical opening as well. But back to the TARDIS pin he wore on The One Show, because we've not discussed that quite enough. The sales of this pin badge were going to LGBT plus charity AKT, which is an amazing charity. If you don't already know about it, here is a little bit of information. They're just fantastic. It's a charity that Sharba and I have supported in the past, so I love to see that they raise some money through this. And after Tennant wore the pin badge on national television, the sales increased and reportedly over $20,000 was raised for the charity. Like with the t-shirt he wore that also raised money for LGBT plus causes, just the simple act of him wearing something pride related publicly isn't just a show of allyship, but genuinely makes a difference to people's lives due to the huge amounts of money that he helps to raise by just publicly wearing these things. He also wore the badge on the Rolling Stones UK Awards red carpet and shouted out the creator Jamie Gallagher. It's just something that I think is rather lovely and important, said Tennant. It suits what Doctor Who is all about, so the fact that relevant charities are benefiting from it is something I'm hugely pleased about. The Doctor has always supported the other, the unusual, the disenfranchised. That's what that show's about. He also said, most people are decent, honest, understanding people who just want to live together harmoniously. We just need to banish the noise and banish the hate. Honestly, banishing the hate sounds pretty lovely, right? And finally, number 8. This is a curveball one. I've just put this one in because I enjoyed it. It's not the same as the other ones, but he reportedly stopped J.K. Rowling from appearing in a Doctor Who episode. Now, I have to say, this was way back in 2008, before anybody knew what J.K. Rowling was like, maybe even before she knew what she was like. Who knows when her views developed? But nobody was to know that she was going to turn out to be a massive transphobe, which is why this is a bonus and not like 100% serious, but I think we can all be appreciative of it now. In 2008, it was suggested that Rowling could feature in a Christmas special of Doctor Who, but Tennant apparently didn't want her to appear in the show because he thought it sounded like a spoof. It wasn't to do with her views as far as I'm aware. But yeah, so even though he wouldn't have known back then and it wasn't being done as like a, I don't want transphobes on Doctor Who, I think many Doctor Who fans will be grateful that J.K. Rowling never appeared in an episode, because I'm sure we would never want to watch that episode ever again. And apparently we have David Tennant to thank for that, so yay. So those are the things that I wanted to highlight, but it's important to note that there are so many other things, and also that it's not a brand new thing for David Tennant to be an ally. There's instances from around 2008 where he's spoken out in support of the LGBT plus community and shutting down homophobic stereotypes. And I know that his support and allyship means so much to so many trans people. Honestly, mention David Tennant in a room full of trans people and there will be the biggest cheer. His steadfast support of the LGBTQ plus community, and particularly the trans community right now, really does make a difference. And I think allies often make more of a difference than they expect to, on bigger scales, raising money, but then also just on the smaller individual scales of people like realizing that their heroes are wonderful people and their favorite shows are all about the right messages and that they are not alone, and somebody that they look up to actively supports who they are. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And if you love that too, please please go drop a blue heart down in the comments. So yeah, whilst I stand by the crucialness of continuing to call out transphobia, I also want to start injecting a little bit more positivity every now and then on the channel and celebrating allyship as well. So yeah, I thought it would be nice to start with David Tennant because I couldn't think of a better person to start with. I know there are lots of amazing allies, but just personally, he was a no-brainer to choose first. So yeah, if you like this video, think about giving a thumbs up and subscribing. Drop that blue heart if you too love trans allyship, love trans people, love David Tennant, love all of the above, whatever. That would be amazing. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye.